Rise of Kingdoms just added a very controversial changes to the new crystal technology, and unfortunately, I kind of understand where they're coming from. But first, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Musi Gaming here, and today I want to talk about the new crystal technology changes that they're thinking about making to the new upcoming seasonal conquest KVKs with new crystal technology. And I want to talk about why I personally think that they're making these changes, and why I think it might not be as terrible as what a lot of people are thinking. So let's talk about it. So they added additional damage bonus versus specific troop type to previously damage reduction to specific troop type technology that is only acquirable for most spenders and not free to play players. Now, if you look at this one right here, infantry expert, this technology in the screen right here will provide you 10% damage reduction. So in the old new crystal technology format, you only got the damage reduction like this one. If you actually go to this one right here, yeah, you only got the damage reduction from this particular technology. Now this will give you additional damage that is on par with the damage reduction that you're getting from this particular technology. Now, I get where Rise of Kingdoms is coming from, because we actually removed about 25% of all damage as we switch from the old KVK technology to new KVK technology. And it worked, right? It worked for open field meta where you don't really die instantly whenever you get caught off guard and all that stuff. But 25% of all damage and adding 10% more damage mitigation, or 3.5% to 10% more damage mitigation, depending on your spend level, is a lot of different changes and a lot of shift in the things. And I think they're just adding back 10% more to 10% more all damage to the KVK technology so that the fights don't last as long as it does right now. Now, the controversial part is that this technology in specific is actually just meant for most of the spenders. So a lot of free-to-play players as well as low spenders are very upset about these changes, and I understand 100% where they're coming from in terms of the free-to-play players and the low spenders. But I think the reason why they're making these changes is because of the latest commanders that were released to the game that has so much damage mitigation built into their kit already that they just don't die. So let's talk about Qin Shi Huang first, the GOAT of the greatest of all time, like of all open field fighting in Rise of Kingdoms at this moment, right? As of September 15th, 2025, at the time of me recording this video, there is no objection to anyone that is actually watching this video that will say Qin Shi Huang is not OP, right? And part of it that makes Qin Shi Huang so OP is because of his force skill. Now, this is a passive skill, and if you're fighting on the field, you gain 500 rage, which is fine. I think that's not what I'm here to talk about. You not only take 10% less normal damage, but whenever their troop takes direct damage, smite damage, or combo damage with 300 or more damage factor, it spends 40 rage and reduces the damage by 40%. What does that mean? Let's say you are taking 2000 damage factor smite damage, right? From if you're, and let's say you're attacking a Qin Shi Huang that had full maxed out crystal technology, you're taking 10% less damage from the fact that you have the crystal technology maxed out. You're taking 10% less damage because it's normal damage, and you're taking 40% additional less damage from whatever smite damage that you're taking as Qin Shi Huang. So everyone got 50% damage mitigation for big damage for Qin Shi Huang. That's why Qin Shi Huang is so tanky, and that's why he trades just exceptionally well against any scenarios. He has 50% damage reduction for normal damage built in, 40% damage reduction for skill damage built in, and on top of that, if you add 10% damage mitigation on top of it, on top of us doing less all damage because of the new crystal technology changes, that's why Qin Shi Huang does so well. And I think, to a degree, by adding back a little bit more damage, I think they're trying to see if they can actually balance out the reduced damage meta a little bit more. But that's what I wanted to talk about. Another commander that I wanted to talk about was Bai Chi. like Bai Chi's expertise, right? When reduced to 50% units remaining, it deals 60% more damage and takes 30% less damage. 30% less damage. On top of that, you're gonna take passive 10% less damage if you had max tech all the way, right? So you're taking 40% less damage. You're taking 60% less damage if you had 15% of units remaining. Again, they just don't die in the new KVK technology, I think. Bai Qi, Qin Shi Huangs just don't die at all. So I think they're testing out new additional damage, like 10% more. It's a lot, but then again, it's not enough to kind of mitigate all the damage reduction that came into the game, in my opinion. Now, imagine both of those commanders who have somewhere between 40 to 60% of damage mitigation built in. Imagine that they're getting the buff from Philip. What does Philip do? Philip actually gives 10% damage mitigation to anyone that's around you. So now the field meta is like you're taking so much less damage after the new crystal technology, after the changes that after the new commanders like Philip, Qin Shi Huang, and Bai Qi is added to the game. There's just too much damage mitigation that a lot of people just don't die. And I think that they're testing the all damage rollback a little bit, especially for the new, especially for the whales, so that they can see if this would actually bring back some of the changes that they did into by adding damage mitigation on top of releasing a series of commanders that just has a lot of damage mitigations built in my opinion. Now, was the execution done really well on this? I am personally not sure. I think maybe they could have moved the damage bonus back to the KVK prep stage, where I think previously it was giving you 30%, 40%. Now it's giving you 30%. I think you should have just rolled back additional 10% to that KVK technology so that everyone has that extra 10% bonus. But I think that they're testing, okay, well, at least for the whales, would this make more sense? Now, would I see this new changes? Maybe not until the next KVK does come around. Because I already registered for a KVK that only has the damage mitigation KVK technology built in, not the additional damage though. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see from people who actually gets to test this particular part of crystal technology tree. But I get where they're coming from. I think their head is in the right place. Execution-wise, I'm not too sure. I personally do think that there is a little bit too much damage mitigation commanders released to the game right now. Again, Philip. If you're using Philip as if you're using Philip as one of your primary or secondary commander, you're getting 20% damage mitigation instead of 10% damage mitigation. You're also buffing everyone around you 10% damage mitigation, right? And on top of that, the fact that Qin Shi Huang has up to like 60% damage mitigation for normal damage dealt if you have the max new crystal technology, and Bai Qi having just so much damage mitigation just built in. And those just like, you can't mitigate the damage mitigation, right? You can't mitigate the less damage taken, right? So I don't know. I think there are better ways for you to actually change this. I think Lilith initially was thinking, okay, well, releasing a series of commanders that would basically last longer in the field, maybe it will change the meta from just pop off meta. You just die in 2 seconds if you get caught out of position. I think it did if they were just releasing the commanders that took less damage. But on top of that, they took away a lot of ball damage and added damage mitigation to KVK technology. Now, Qin Shi Huangs on the field that has max technology are invincible, right? They just trade just too much. I understand where they're coming from. Maybe some of the, again, like maybe going back to giving 40% all damage instead of 30% all damage might change the things. maybe in favor of everyone, but who knows? I hope that everyone who's watching this video kind of understands my perspective of why I think they're making these changes. It's understandable, right? Again, if let's say you're using Qin Shi Huang with Philip, right? His active skill will actually give you extra 20% damage mitigation on top of like him taking 50% less damage from normal damage, 40% less damage from skill damage, and on top of the KVK technology that will give you 10% less damage. Like Qin Shi Huang will never die, right? So I get where they're coming from. Hopefully they'll test it out, make adjustments to this. Who knows? But what do you guys think? Do you guys think the new KVK technology, like at least their heads in the right place? Do you think they're just completely gone nuts? I don't know. Share with me what you're thinking. Please let me know your thoughts on the comment down below. And as always, I'll see y'all in the next video. All right. Peace.